The beauty of college football is that anything can happen any season. We see teams and players come out of nowhere and shock us all. Another beauty is making a bold prediction that comes true, or making a bold prediction that ends up being completely wrong. Starting now, leading up until the college football season kicks off, I'm going to be releasing weekly videos where I read your bold predictions and hot takes for the 2023 college football season. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm posting college football videos all off season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. To start off this series, I'll be reading some bold predictions I saw over on Reddit. Moving forward though, I'll be reading hot takes from the comments on these videos. So if you have a scorching hot take and bold prediction for the 2023 season, leave a comment below and it could be featured in my next video. We'll start off with this one that says Urban Meyer ends up at Texas or Texas A&M. Now, if Urban Meyer were to somehow end up at Texas A&M, that means the Aggies would have paid Jimbo Fisher a pretty record-breaking buyout number. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think if A&M were to fire Jimbo, they'd owe him like $80 or $90 million or something like that, so I don't think Urban is going to end up at A&M. But if he ends up at Texas, well, that means things just went really bad for the Longhorns and Steve Sarkisian was fired mid-season, and the replacement was actually Urban Meyer during the middle of the season, which I don't think that's necessarily going to happen as well. Vanderbilt will be bowl eligible this year. Now, I looked up Vanderbilt's recent history and I didn't realize they made a bowl game as recently as 2018. I thought their streak was a lot longer than that, so it turns out their drought hasn't been as long as I initially thought. Also, Vanderbilt did go 5-7 last year, so if they can just improve on that by one game, then all of a sudden the Commodores are gonna be bowling at the end of the year. Alright, now we're just getting crazy here because Flanny0210 says, "We will score an offensive touchdown," referring to Iowa. Now, I'm not exactly certain how many offensive touchdowns Iowa scored in 2022, but it couldn't have been more than one. So I think asking the Hawkeyes to score a touchdown at some point in 2023 is certainly quite the ask. Alright, now we're getting a little crazy here. Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, and USC failed to make the playoffs. So he's not just saying one of these teams misses out on the college football playoff. They're saying that all 5 of these teams failed to be in the Final Four, so if that's the case, if none of these 5 teams reach the college football playoff, then you're probably having the craziest college football season we've seen in recent memory, because if I were to guess, these 5 teams are probably the betting favorites to win the national championship in 2023, so if there is just a lot of craziness that happens this upcoming year, and these 5 teams don't reach the college football playoff, that means the 4 teams that are reaching the playoff are probably the 4 most surprising teams you could ever imagine. Florida loses to Utah in week 1, but ends up making the SEC championship. Now that one I could actually see happening, because if Florida were to lose to Utah in week 1, that doesn't impact their SEC schedule at all, so they could honestly lose all of their non-conference games and still make it to the SEC title game. When taking a look at Florida's schedule in 2023, their conference slate isn't all that difficult. Essentially, the toughest game is going to be when they have to face Georgia at the end of October. They do play Tennessee at home and they do play LSU on the road, but those are 2 games that the Gators can definitely win. Will they? I'm not entirely sure, but I think it all comes down to that Georgia game. Now, if we're being real with ourselves, Florida's probably going to lose all 3 of those games and probably drop a game to Vanderbilt and South Carolina at some point as well in 2023. Kansas wins 12 games and we are crowned champions of college football. Now, this is a little interesting because Kansas probably can't be crowned champions of college football by winning only 12 games. They're going to have to win 12 games in the regular season, win their conference title game, and then go go on to win 2 playoff games, so they're going to need 15 games in order to be crowned the champions of college football. But if they somehow win it all by winning 12 games, that means they'd be the first ever 3-loss national champions. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I guess that's why this qualifies as a scorching hot take. Speaking of scorching, Sam Hartman, Jordan Travis, and Tyler Buchner are Heisman finalists. Now, I don't think the first 2 players on this list being Heisman finalists is that scorching of a hot take, because if you guys saw my Heisman video from a couple days ago, I talked about the 10 players that have the highest odds, and Sam Hartman and Jordan Travis, I believe, were inside the top 8, I want to say. Jordan Travis was actually tied for the second best odds to win the Heisman, so I don't think those players are scorching hot by any means, but Tyler Buchner, I know that he's going to be potentially Alabama's starting quarterback, but if he's a Heisman finalist, that means that he's having a season better than any of us could have imagined from him. Alright, we got a bit of a long one here. Alabama has their worst season since 2007. Nick Saban retires, and Alabama makes a run for Lane Kiffin. In turn, Mississippi declares itself a sovereign monarchy, naming Kiffin as king. During this time, Clemson has renamed all of their academic buildings and athletic facilities in Dabo's name, and Alabama is forced to elevate Jeremy Pruitt to head coach, who in turn immediately hires Brett O'Brien back as offensive coordinator. Now, there are a lot of moving parts in regards to this hot take, so I'm not going to break all of them down. I will say I'm going to give this one 10 out of 10 for creativity, and I think this is the best one on today's video, so let's just say that all this happens and this scorching hot take comes true. Okay, now we're talking. A Pac12 team goes to the college football playoff. I think this is going to be the best the Pac12 has been in probably over a decade, maybe even 2 decades. They were really solid last season, but I think between USC, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Oregon State, and potentially maybe a couple other teams that are really impressive as well, I think there's going to be a lot of good competition in the Pac-12 this year. I think the Pac-12 is going to do what they do every single year, and that's essentially just wipe each other out. I don't think there's going to be a team that makes it through everyone untouched. I think every Pac-12 team is going to have 1 or 2 losses, so if a team is able to go undefeated and make it to the college football playoff, that would be great. But I think the Pac-12, like I said, I think they're just going to beat each other up, and I think the best team might be a 2-loss team going into the college football playoff. This comes from an Arizona fan saying, "We will be good." Now, by Arizona standards, I know for them, a good season is becoming bowl eligible, so let's say they win 6 games. Well, have the parade in Tucson, because that'll be quite the good season for the Wildcats. Speaking of the Pac-12, we're continuing this trend, and Oregon State wins the Pac-12. Like I mentioned, there were a lot of good teams in the Pac-12 last season, but I don't think many people realized just how good the Beavers actually were in 2022. They finished the season with 10 wins, and that was their best season in quite a long time. I mean, it was their first season with double-digit wins since 2006. They were tied for second in the conference in total wins, and honestly, had they just won 1 more game during the regular season, they could have been playing in the Pac-12 championship with a chance to win the Pac-12. I do think the Beavers got better this offseason, especially by adding DJ Uiagalelei. So, I think Oregon State has a realistic shot of winning the conference. We'll wrap up today's video with this one saying Nebraska makes a bowl game. Now, Nebraska has been one of the more disappointing teams in all of college football for pretty much the last 5 to 6 years. Now, when I went and looked back at it, I didn't think it's been this long since Nebraska made a bowl game, but the last time they went bowling was all the way back in 2016. I get it, Nebraska's been bad recently, but I didn't know it'd been that long since they won even 6 games in a season. I mean, going back, they've won 4, 4, 5, 3, 3, and 4, so asking them to win 6 games is quite the task for them. I'm taking a look at their schedule right now, and honestly, it seems really tough to find 6 games that Nebraska is going to come out on top. So I think that's actually a perfect hot take to wrap up this video on, saying that Nebraska is actually going to win 6 games, because looking at the schedule, I just don't see that happening. Well, that wraps it up for the first edition of Reading Bold Predictions for the upcoming college football season. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you have a bold prediction or a hot take you'd like me to read in a future video, drop a comment down below and I might just read it in my next video. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be posting one of these videos every week leading up to the college football season, so I'll have a lot of hot takes that I gotta read. Before you leave, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos all off season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.